You want to make sure your fringe is looking great before we start.
I have no fringe today because you told me people laughed at it. I don't know if that's true or you're just trolling me, but just in case.
Okay, we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to the Run It One stream on check raising. Hopefully Alexandra knows all about check raising and we can learn lots from her. She's been stayed in this spot. We both coach for Run It Once Essential program, and during the stream, if you want to sign up to Run It Once Essential, you can get 50% off. There should be links in the chat coming up soon.
Yeah.
Alex?
Hi, I'm Alexandra and I don't have a fringe today. Yeah, as Paul said, we are both mid-stakes cash players and coaches for Running Twins. We're hosting these sessions weekly, so hopefully most of you know us by now. And yeah, the topic for today is check raising and also playing after check raising, as I think that's something that a lot of people have troubles with, and these are hands that we received from our students. So yeah, if you like our approach, make sure to join our Discord. We're going to host weekly free sessions there as well. Paul is going to link it in the chat. And that being said, I guess we can get into the hands.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, this is, what is this? 7 marks? 9 marks, I don't know. It's not a game I usually play, but we can definitely adjust. So we face a limp from someone who's most likely a recreational, and then an ISO. Yeah, I think this hand can go either way. I guess the benefits of calling is getting to play against the recreational much more often, which is definitely something that we want and is often higher EV than, just 3-betting against the reg. On the other hand, there's already way more money into the pot than we see in a normal open raise spot. So, if we 3-bet and take the pot down pre-flop, that's also quite good for us. Paul, do you have any preferences here?
Yeah, in this spot, I would mostly just simplify to just call him with a hand like ace-5 suited. And the reason for that is when you have a 40 big blind recreational, they may be too volatile in the wrong way here. So when we go for a raise, they might start shoving hands that are weak and shouldn't be shoved, but are stronger than our hands. So you could think of hands like ace-9 off, ace-10 off, ace-jack off as well. So yeah, I think I would mostly prefer to just call here and try to keep the recreational in the pot, as that's where most of our win rate is going to be coming from long term anyway.
All right, we do go for a call, I imagine, because otherwise how do we check raise? I mean, and now we face 1/3 bet, and I guess we decide to go for a check raise here. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. I don't think I like check raising with this particular hand, but what I would say is that I like that he's finding the check raises with bottom pairs, although bottom pairs that want to check raise here are going to be usually lower, like 5-4, 5-3. I'm not sure if we're gonna call those to a 4x opening size though. And then we're also going to have a lot of higher equity bluffs. I think if we do this, I prefer at least having a flush draw. I think this hand is probably better going into a calling range and not really including check raises. What do you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. I think this check raise can be okay at a small frequency. I think it has some good properties in that we block hands like ace jack, we block ace 9. We're going to get some better hands to fold sometimes as well. Mainly hands like sixes, sevens, pocket eights as well. So I don't mind it. But yeah, probably not doing it all that often. And Davide asks in the chat for you, Alexandra, what size would you use if you did 3-bet pre-flop? And also, just hello to everyone in the chat. It's nice and active today, so yeah, hey everyone.
Hi everyone. What size I would use here? I don't like making squeezies that are really big. I know there's some debate in the poker world about this. I think I would just go to something like 14 big blinds. That might seem a bit small, but from what I see in practice, smaller sizes kind of put people in a bit of a tougher spot. And that's because, they're actually not supposed to call very wide, especially in these tighter positions. So first of all, I think they would have quite some difficulties in terms of what to call. But then the other thing is, if we make it really big, they can just shove or fold in terms of four betting. So, and then their four bet amount doesn't need to be as high. But the smaller we go, the more they have to find click four bets in positions and other tricky stuff like that. And I think most opponents are going to make bigger mistakes against smaller sizing. So I would probably go to something like 14, 15 big blinds, not higher. But yeah, thinking about it twice, this guy being so short, I think I agree with Paul that we can often find some weird shoves from him, and that's not really something that we want to happen when we have ace five. So I think I agree with Paul that calling in this spot is probably better.
One thing I would say is, you were saying around about 14 big blinds. What do you think about going to maybe about 10 or 11 big blinds? Because I would imagine in this spot, if we want to squeeze a bit more often, we have to be aware of just villain 28 and how short stacked he is.
Well, the thing with going so small, that's why I just think, thinking about it twice, calling is just better. Because often the purpose of three betting this hand is that we get better ace-x to fold, but 10 big blinds here is just a click. I don't think it accomplishes that as much. I mean, because I don't think he's gonna ISO here stuff like ace-9 offsuit, and then when we go to like ace-10 suited, ace-jack offsuit, stuff like that, I don't think it folds to such a small size. So yeah, I'd rather just call, I think.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, again, this is gonna also get called by some worse hands. So I don't think it's terrible. I just think we need to be careful of our frequencies. And there's also some violent tendencies that we want to take into account here. So I think the more often I expect to face another bet on the turn, the more I like this. And also if I assume he range bets, again, the more I like this. But, if it's the opposite, the other way around, then I'd rather just go for a call. Anything else to say about flop?
No, I think everything's been said. Sounds good. Well, that's a nice turn.
For our hand. Is it a nice turn for our range? I don't think it's that bad, because if we think about it, yes, we're not gonna check raise many ace-x, but I mean, we're still gonna have some ace-jack, and I don't think he's going to bet call many ace-x either, except for the flush draws. So this is not a great card for us, but it's not terrible either, I don't think so. I think this is quite neutral, and we should probably, have a medium frequency. But when we bet, I think we don't really want to overbet. I think we want to use something like a 3/4 pot size bet, and that's because that will still keep his underpairs like kings, queens, jack x in his range, while also allowing us to value bet a bit thinner, because we are going to check raise ace-x of clubs here as well, and I think that can value bet here as long as we keep our sizing small enough, so something like 3/4. And this hand, although in theory it might be mixed, I think in practice I would always just go for a bet, as there is so many, as I said, under pairs, but also draws, pair plus draws that could call us. So yeah, I think I in practice I would just go for a pure bet here, unless I'm against someone who I know is just gonna stab way too often in this scenario.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting. I think they can potentially also have some weaker ace-x here, because I think that some ace queen, some ace king, especially with a club, is going to be calling the check raise on the flop. We didn't go for a huge check raise, so we can still get value from that portion as well. And I overall agree with you that I think this guy is going to be quite neutral, given that we are going to check raise ace five, ace nine, ace jack at some frequency, and the ace x of clubs as well at some frequency. And then villain is of course going to be calling with his ace five, ace nine, ace jack, and maybe some ace queen, ace king as well.
Yeah, although I do expect some of those ace kings, ace queen to fold without the club, so it's not like he still has all the ace x here, and obviously it depends on his c betting range. If he mixes, this becomes probably better for us. Yeah, I think this is fine. We get a call and reverse the deuce. So what you see in these scenarios is that we are going to have a very high betting frequency, because obviously some of our bluffs are going to be flush draws that now get there, but also our sets and better two pairs are still strong enough to bet. So here what you see in theory is that we want to mix between big size, so probably an all-in, and then a small size to accommodate our sets and, I don't know, maybe straights. We can have some 3-4 here, although that's not going to be super common, especially against 4x. But yeah, the idea is that we want to mix between a small size and a big size. I think this is going to be very close, especially when he can still have ace high flush draws. But I think I would prefer going for a small bet myself, because I don't think people tend to bluff enough in this line, so I don't really see him like check calling this. It's definitely not great, and I still think it's probably enough for sense that could call against 1/3, although I will admit I have a leak of betting too thin in this spot, just because I know check calling isn't great. So yeah, I think this is quite close between a check fold or a 1/3 fold. And the other reason I would bet is that I don't think people find enough raise bluffs here.
When you say a check fold, you mean versus an all-in size, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I was just surprised when you said either a block fold or a check fold, because I think I agree with everything you said. Just wanted to clarify that point, because if I check here and villain bets, this is going to be I think a really good hand to call with. As long as even to an all-in size, I think at some frequency I'm calling this hand. What do you think? Because I think in this spot we're really doing a great job of unblocking, king queens, queen tens, 10-8s. Yeah, I think there's a bunch of hands there that could potentially bluff, and we're also doing a very good job of blocking. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, when we check and he goes for like a 30-40 big blind bet, I mean, even a jam, like we're blocking pocket fives, we're blocking aces.
Yeah, I don't really think people are gonna jam pocket fives here, do you?
No, I don't think they'd jam pocket fives.
And then
I think they might bet it for a smaller size, or then you're even going to get people at lower stakes just being way too nitty with those hands. But if he's choosing a non-all-in size, then I think that this actually does become quite a nice bluff catcher.
I'm not sure really, because I totally agree with you if we were like, I don't know, cutoff limping button ISOing, but this is quite a tight range spot, and I don't really think they're gonna have king queen. Are they always gonna bet call flop and then call turn? I'm not sure if king queen always calls turn. After all, it's just a gut shot. And then I don't think he's gonna have those 10-8 suited as often, or queen 10 offsuit, so with these ranges I think there's less bluffs available, but I'm sure he's always going to have the flashes.
Yeah, I think it's important then to note there that if I agree with what you're saying, and maybe against villain 29, we have to be very aware of who this guy is, right? Because if we're playing lower stakes and this guy is, a 20 VPIP tight regular, then I agree with you. I think it just becomes a much easier check fold, even, against most sizes. But if we're playing against, a regular who's more, 28 VP, and is a decent regular, then I think he can be there with a lot more with a bunch of those hands.
Yeah, I guess it's quite a tough spot, I would say. I'm not really sure about this. But do you think this hand is still worth one third size? Because what do we. I mean, we don't need to get called by worse very often when we bet one third, but there's still a bunch of hands that beat us. Flushes, sets, ace jack, ace nine.
Yeah. Okay, so we go for the check.
He checks back. I guess we don't see whole cards.
Ah, that's such a shame.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm not sure which side this has been played on, but it would be nice to see hand histories. I think a check is fine. I really don't want to face a bet though. That's such a grim spot.
Yeah, I think one thing for Hero in this spot is to definitely take a note of the hand that he turned up with here. Because this could definitely be a spot that this guy just massively underbluffs on river, and we just have easier spots in the future against him. So yeah, depending on what his hand is, I'd be for sure taking a note here.
I don't think he can see it either.
Oh really? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that's why it's not in the replay. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, I've had a rum and coke, so I'm not completely with it today. Cheers.
Okay, should we go next then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, cheers. I'm having water.
Spicy water.
Spicy water. Okay, we call against two big blinds. I think if he goes bigger, like 2.5 from these positions, this hand is actually very close. And in high rake environments, actually a fold, I think. But it's a call against 2x. And he goes very close to pot. Right. I don't think it's a mistake to check raise this hand, but against this size, it should be quite low frequency, and it is quite close. I've actually been looking into some spots where in position is betting very big. And apparently we are meant to check raise small and quite thin, and that's just because we are not doing great and our equity realization is much worse when we just call. But it's quite a weird spot, and I think I need to dive a bit deeper into it. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that apparently we want to raise this hand more often than I thought, even against big sizes. But I would go smaller if we decide to raise, because what we're trying to accomplish is basically, either getting some random hands like, I don't know, King Jack with the backdoor flash draw to call or fold or put them in a tough spot. But we are not, this is not a hand that wants to, get a lot of value or go for stacks. If you think about his range as well, again, this is not a position where he's supposed to open a lot of queen 10 offsuit, so it's not like we're doing great with this hand. He still has all the overpairs and high equity draws and so on. What do you think?
Just before I give my thoughts on this spot, Davide said, what kind of nutted hands would you include in the block bet range? So in the last hand on the river, personally, I think that you want to put some of your flushes in there. I think actually put in some of your ace-x flushes into this range is going to be very nice, because you're going to block some calls from his ace-5, ace-9, ace-jack, and of course you can comfortably call a shove. You may also just get the worst flush draws then jamming as well. At least that's what it's intended to do when you block an ace-x of clubs on the river. What about yourself, Alex?
Well, I think the most common size that we're going to use on this river is 1/3. So the shove size is going to be used by some nut flushes and maybe some second nut flushes, and the second nut flushes are probably going to be the ones like if we show up here with like king 3, king 4, stuff like that, rather than something like king queen, because we want them to have a smaller flush. But yeah, most of our flushes are going to go into the smaller bet, and then the better ones are going to shove. Although it can be a bit of a tricky one because the solver, when it goes one third, assumes that imposition is going to have, value raises but also bluff raises. So it's also getting value by villain raising with his bluffs. So I think in theory we don't need to protect our one third range as much, but still the lower flushes here are not really worth an all in. So I'm not sure if that was too ambiguous or if it answered your question, but basically most of the flushes I would just put into a one third size, and then some of them I would shove. The ones that I would shove, I would like them to be an ace with a low card or a king with a low card.
I would still just shove some of my jack high flushes here. Sorry, we can't have jack high flushes. Say our queen high flushes, I would still just shove here just because I think villain is going to be able to hero call them with some ace king with the king of clubs or ace king with the ace of clubs type of stuff as well.